Welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network, coming to you from the TeacherCast studios since 2011. Join us each week as we bring you the latest educational news, EdTech updates, and hottest interviews with today's most influential leaders in education. And now, for your host, Jeff Bradbury.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury, and welcome to Digital Learning Today. On today's episode, we're going to be talking to the founder of a company that is helping teachers with individualized professional development using artificial intelligence, conversational artificial intelligence to be exact. And we have a fantastic episode where we're going to be finding out not only how teachers can take advantage of recording themselves, listening to it, getting feedback from it, but working hand in hand with their own digital personal assistant to help them to have great feedback and improvement in the classroom. So stick around for this episode of Digital Learning Today. You don't want to miss it. I hope you guys are getting ready for the end of the year. We've been having a great time here on TeacherCast. No matter if you're listening to this episode of Digital Learning Today, our Ask the Tech Coach podcast, our Jeff Bradbury show, or any of our other shows, you can always find our archives over at teachercast.net/podcasts. And while you're over there, do me a favor, sign up for our weekly newsletter. We got a lot of great stuff coming out each and every week, and we don't want you guys to miss an episode, a blog post, or anything happening over on teachercast.net. And as we look ahead, ISTE is right around the corner. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in Denver for a fantastic time. I'm going to be doing a few presentations, so check out all the great stuff at TeacherCast. I'm going to be putting out a newsletter really soon with all of the things that I'm going to be doing. And if you're there, I hope that you have a chance to check out not only my presentations, but hey, come on up and do selfies with Jeff. Would love to meet you and would love to know a little bit about what you guys are doing in your neck of the woods. So I'll see you guys at ISTE in Denver this year. My guest today is an educator and the founder of a great company called Edthena, and they recently created an AI coach for professional development. I'm really excited to talk about this program today. I want to bring on today Mr. Adam Geller. Adam, how are you today? Welcome to TeacherCast.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
I am looking forward to learning a lot more about this. How did you get into doing AI coaches and why professional development these days?
Yeah, so our company, Edthena, we've been around for more than a decade. And this entire time we've been focused, with laser precision on this question of how do you streamline feedback to teachers using video. And so we have a platform that is in use by schools and districts. It's called the Video Coaching Platform, where teachers upload a video and they share it to the coach or the colleague and get timestamp feedback. So, I like to say, think play-by-play analysis, but for videos of teaching. And, that platform has been in use, but sometimes we would hear from folks, hey, we don't have enough coaches, or my teachers aren't comfortable with coaching, or we haven't tried video yet and people are hesitant. And so there were things standing in the way for really getting the ball rolling with using video for teacher learning, which the research says is just a really, really high impact way to structure professional development. And so a few years ago now, we started thinking, okay, well, there's some new technologies in the works. We were kind of looking around the corner, and we started building in a completely new way to interact with video using an interaction where the teacher is communicating with a virtual coach. And so in spring of 2022, timeline here, really important because that is, in the AI timeline for folks, that's before the words ChatGPT had passed any of our lips, right? Because that comes at the end of 2022. So in the early spring of 2022, we announced that we had been working and we're putting into testing a new platform called AI Coach, which really represented a new way of thinking about professional development for teachers. They could use video, they could record themselves in the classroom and upload that video, but then they would look at it on their own. with this support model driven by a virtual coach who, sits in kind of like a chat style window next to the teacher and is offering the kind of tips and advice to help the teacher be successful through the kind of observation, reflection, and action planning process for their classrooms.
Now, when a school district is trying to create hands-on professional development for teachers, my district, as an example, has 2,000 teachers to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can a school district use Edthena to have a greater impact in the classroom using, teacher feedback, all of that stuff? How can we make sure that all 2,000 of our educators are being serviced?
It's a great question. I'm thinking here how to answer it. And, I want to tell it through the story of a teacher who I had an opportunity to talk to recently who uses AI Coach. And she said one of the things that she thought was so cool about it for her, and this is a later career teacher actually, is she talked about going to workshops over the summer and at the beginning of the school year, and that from her perspective, the value she was getting from using AI Coach was basically this structured opportunity to take those workshop ideas that she had written into a notebook and put them into practice, right? Because so often, districts are doing the hard work of thinking about, what are kind of some of the big picture ideas or techniques or topics we're going to kind of get out to teachers, right? But then, you kind of asked it here. How do we actually do the connection between introducing that good idea and putting it into practice? And that's really where AI Coach shines, because every teacher basically has this on-demand guide on the side that's there to help them with what's important to them and to their students and in their classroom. And it just really, I like to say it operationalizes the research around what is the gold standard in professional development, right? Because, you sit in a workshop and you lose most of it, right? You don't remember it, but you go into the classroom and you try it out and you get feedback on how you did. That's when things start to stick. That's when, as a teacher, you decide to make and sustain the change over time. And so that's where I think AI Coach can really help large divisions and reach every single teacher, like you asked.
Well, for more information, you can head on over to edthena.com. That's EDTHENA.com. And Adam, walk us through this process, right? Because we're talking about the teachers learning from themselves, right? Teachers taking videos of themselves. How do you envision this working? How does this teacher just have video of themselves?
So the teacher's going to record themselves in the classroom using whatever devices they have. So whether that's a district issued laptop or an iPad or even a Chromebook, right? Because a lot of districts use Chromebooks. They're going to be able to open that up, any internet connected device, hit record inside the AI Coach app. So they don't have to install anything. They don't even know how to record. And PS, for every teacher that thinks they're great at recording a 12-second cat video, it's very different to get a 12-minute or 20-minute video of yourself online, right? So it's all automatic to get the videos online. Then they go back in to the platform and they start a coaching cycle with the virtual coach. And I should make sure to mention the virtual coach does have a name. Her name is Edie. Anyway, so you start the virtual coaching session. And you're going to go through a whole coaching cycle. So it starts with a conversation, just like you would sit down with your coach today or your school leader today. And, hey, Jeff, what are you interested in learning about? What's important to you right now? What do you want to be observing for in this video that you have of yourself, right? So putting the teacher's interests and needs first, and then the virtual coach is able to use that information to supply customized observation tips to help the teacher actually go through their video and find moment by moment the pieces of data, for lack of a better way of saying it, that are related to their growth areas or their interest areas. And those can be strengths as well as opportunities for improvement. So the teacher collects all that data. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, how does that work exactly? Does the teacher have to be in the video the entire time, or is it listening to the audio as well? Where do you put the camera?
It's a good question. So just to clarify what's happening right now, we're not doing any kind of computer assisted feedback or computer automated feedback. So a lot of folks, you're not asking this, but sometimes I get asked, like, is the computer watching the teacher in the video? Now, by the way, we know some researchers that are working on that right now, but that's not what's happening. What's happening is we're really setting up the teacher to do the observation of themselves. Right? Because when you think about, you put on that school administrator hat, whether you're a school leader or a district leader, and you think about how do you actually change people's mindsets, right? It's not about telling them what to do or telling them what you see in the classroom. It's about them finding their version of the truth in the data and adopting that as their own truth and taking that forward to make a change. And so really we've set up that process just like a facilitative coaching conversation. And the virtual coach is not telling the teacher what to do, but is instead asking open-ended questions or offering open-ended prompts that really guide the teacher to go find these things out about themselves and use that information to set a goal for themselves.
It seems like a great solution. I want to pick apart it a couple times if we can here.
Absolutely.
Because I could see this being successful with a teacher taking it, using it, and doing that feedback. What experiences have you had in a full district? I mean, somebody who is listening to this show might be able to do this, but any good coach knows 100% of the teachers are not going to be able to do this on their own. How do you get district-wide adoption?
From a technical perspective, you're asking.
We'll start there. There's a follow-up.
Sure. From a technical perspective, I mean, again, our company has been around for more than a decade, focused on the use of video. So from the kind of technical complexity that's involved with a process like this, we have a lot of experience on knowing how to design away, for lack of a better way of saying it, the pain points that often exist. And so similar to how you would download a consumer style application onto your cell phone and expect that application to kind of have this, incremental, just in time teaching of little bits of it along the way, because this platform is set up with literally a persona inside the app that can tell you little tidbits along the way, right? The training happens right inside the app, so we hear, actually, from our beta testing, I'll tell you a story because I didn't even believe this. We got this survey data back, and I was like, I don't know. I need to talk to this teacher because something seems off here. And so this is a 30-year veteran that had at the time had decided to test the platform. I'm like, okay, and the survey data came back positive. And I'm like, oh, okay, but let me talk to her. And the conversation kind of started out with her telling me, well, I don't know what the confusion is. I thought I was pretty clear on my survey. I've been around the block. I don't really like tech. I don't need any new innovations, but I was willing to try it out. It was easy. I had fun doing it. I really felt like I learned, and I want to do it again. Like, what else do you need to know? But I think that of course, for me, the biggest headline there is she wanted to do it again. But the important thing is that even for someone who I think is rightful in feeling hesitant about any technology, she felt like this technology met her where she was and provided her the appropriate scaffolds to be successful. So we're really confident that truly any teacher with any technical experience can be successful using this platform because, it gives them a lift along the way and make sure that they have the right training as they go.
And that's a success story. Anytime a coach worked with a teacher and the result is, let's try this a second time, that's a win. One of the questions that I'm sure you get asked a lot is when you have a human coach working with a teacher, there's a bond there. There's a private conversation that says, whatever happens in this classroom stays within this classroom. But now, of course, you're introducing AI, which I'm sure there's an analytics package to it. Where does all this data go? And does it go back to their uppers?
No. is the simplest answer. So it is completely private. The conversation is completely private. The teachers are told that, and we mean that. There is no account or permission that anyone in the district has to see into those coaching conversations. There is data rolled up about activity. The teachers are also explained right at the beginning exactly what's going to be rolled up. So this is basically, how many coaching cycles have you done? Where are you in your coaching cycle? What skills are you picking for leaving your comments? Not what you said in your comments on your video, but what skills you picked. So, okay, you decided to learn about use of academic language and checks for understanding. Great. And what skill did you align your goal to? That's it. That's it. At the end of the process, teachers have the option to download what we call the reflection log, which is an artifact of all the learning they've all the learning they've done. And then they have a PD contact hour certificate as well that's attached to that. And, they can turn that in, and that can be a valuable artifact for other processes, but it still respects the teacher's privacy and gives them the choice and the autonomy to, be learning on their own and decide when, and more importantly, if they will share.
From an administrator's point of view, do they have the opportunity to, and for lack of a term here, program into the system what they want to be having the teacher work on? So for instance, can the school district say, we are really looking forward to having teachers work on student discourse. I want the coach to be focused on student discourse, and then it knows what to go through. How is all of that going to work with the program?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's an interesting question because it's really about the intersection of the system's priorities, right? Which I think the teachers know usually in advance of arriving in the platform, mm-hmm. and the teacher's willingness to do that or not do that, right? And maybe it's a little bit controversial, but we are not trying to force the teachers to do one thing or another, because we really approach this first from the standpoint of, if this was a coaching conversation, how do you motivate the teacher to actually take action in their classroom? Because above all else, that's the most important, right? The most important agenda item here is teachers agree to engage with data about their classroom and assess the truth about their classroom. Then using that data, agree to establish a goal that's important to them and student-centered, that they can actually make progress on, and then develop an action plan for change. And in an ideal world, that would be perfectly aligned to exactly what the principal wants every single time, or what the central office wants. But if it's not aligned, I think that's also interesting information for an administrator to consider.
Is there anything in the platform that'll help determine who is actually being coached? For instance, new teacher, veteran teacher, English teacher, music teacher. I mean, how does it know what it's supposed to be looking for during that time frame?
Yeah, so the kind of skills package, if you will, that we have right now, they are all content neutral. So these are the greatest hits of teacher pedagogy. Check for understanding is useful in a music class as well as in a literacy lesson, right? So, we do have music teachers using it. We do have elementary teachers. We have science teachers at the high school level. We've even to my surprise, because we don't know unless people tell us, because we're not in everybody's account, of course. I had one school leader say that she had a kindergarten teacher in her building use it. So I think, good teaching is good teaching, and these are the practices that represent good teaching that you're going to see on every framework under the sun. It's not any particular framework. And so from that perspective, it can meet the needs of early career, late career, and many subjects.
But how does that work? I want to dig down on this one. Like you said, check for understandings. It's listening or watching or whatever the verb is, your video, and it's trying to figure out when you're asking a specific question, and then it's determining if that's check for understanding. I mean, I could say, Adam, did you read the book? And I can say, Adam, play your trumpet. Those are completely different things.
Right. So for checks for understanding, and I don't have the exact scaffolded questions at hand, right? But the key answer to your question lies in what happens when you go to observe your video. Remember, the teacher needs to do the looking and the finding, right? And so the support that's provided by the virtual coach is primarily a set of open-ended questions that guide the observation. Think of them almost like observation prompts or tips. But all of those questions are open-ended. They're not yes, no. It might be, how often am I leaving wait time, right? Or how often am I incorporating student responses into my next questions? Again, I'm not sure of the exact questions at the moment, but it's those open-ended questions that serve as the guiding frame for the teacher. And so in that way, the music teacher can go into the lesson and answer that for himself or herself, just the same as a middle school math teacher might go into that lesson.
How does the platform work in a district that already has physical coaches? Obviously, the coaches can't be everywhere. I get that. But could you give us a story or an incident that you've been familiar with of, does this replace the coach? Does this work in tandem with the coach? Does the teacher sit down with the coach and the platform? What does that look like?
Well, let me be clear for anybody listening. We are not suggesting in any way that we want coaches to go away. Right? My ideal version of the world is enough coaches where there is 100% of the desired amount of coaching happening for every single teacher every single day. But like you said, that's just not possible. Even if you do have coaches, they can't be everywhere, or you don't have enough coaches, or they have a high caseload, or whatever it might be, right? And actually, some of the biggest advocates for driving adoption in some of our partner districts have been the coaches, because having the AI coach platform serves as a force multiplier for the great work that they're doing, right? Imagine you're my coach, Jeff, and you come to my classroom and we have this powerful conversation about what's happening, and I am feeling charged up about what I want to be learning next and doing next. And you're a busy coach and you're going to say, okay, see you in 2 months, see you in 3 months. With the AI coach, I can get right back to learning next week. I can feel like I maintain that level of support to continue my learning, to continue my growth as a teacher by going through the same motions as I'd be going through with an in-person coach. So this isn't an either or in my mind. This is a yes and.
And I like that answer. And, like you said, nothing is going to be replacing that human to human interaction. This is certainly a wonderful platform that's going to only strengthen this. You mentioned that you started this well before the world knew what ChatGPT is, and obviously since then we have come light years. I'm curious, what have you learned about this technology in the last 2 years that maybe you wished you had known when you first started it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So, I think one of the things that we've all become more versed in with the introduction of ChatGPT, but also other tools that have come in quick succession, like the image generators, right? Is that the umbrella term, when we say AI, it really does encompass a lot of different things. And so when we were building this, and to be very clear, this uses AI. We went and looked and made sure that we were not stretching the meaning of it at all, right? This is what's called conversational AI. And that's different from generative AI. And that's different than image generation or any other type of stuff. So, I think one of the things we've learned is how much will be possible in the future, and that the future is closer than maybe we imagined when we were building this to be the platform and, in kind of technical speak, you might say the surface area, right? The surface area for all these new types of assistive technologies for teachers to have a home. I think one thing that I feel really good about as we've gotten more into kind of view of what's coming, like I mentioned, the computer vision researchers, and there's all kinds of other interesting stuff happening, is that there's a real dynamic that is at attention, if you will, that seems to be building, right? And a lot of people seem to be advocating for tools that, maybe you'd stick in the video and you'd get out the report, and somehow that would help transform teaching in classrooms. But I think the reality is that, teaching is so much more than any computer report is ever going to convince a teacher, right? And so what we've created, we think, is a way for a teacher to have a relationship with a computer program, right? The persona, ED, right? They can be in conversation with ED. And in the future, when it is possible for ED to do a computer vision analysis, first thing you're still going to do, Jeff, I hate to break it to you, you're going to still observe your video, right? Because if you don't believe it's happening in your video, it doesn't matter what the computer can tell you. But then ED can say, hey, by the way, you were observing yourself for proximity control. Do you want to see some statistics I can offer related to that? But like that relationship that you can establish between the teacher and the computer as this guide on the side, right? This creativity partner to unlock the next step in their continued growth. Like I think we keep doubling down on that vision, right? Because I think that, pretty soon we're going to have, and maybe already for some districts, they've already turned it on. You're going to have lesson plan generators inside of Google Docs, right? That's going to be a commodity experience. It's just going to be there. That's not the type of AI that we were ever aiming for. But I think as those things have come into view, it makes it clearer that that's not our value add to teachers. Our value add to teachers is giving them this tool that partners with them to unlock their own greatness.
I got to ask you this question. It's the same one that I ask every single ed tech company that comes on the show. In 6 months, in a year, like what are we going to be talking about in the world of AI, in the world of conversational AI? Where do you see this going in the next 12 months?
I'm for those that are listening, I'm nodding, I'm thinking.
Which is the same thing everybody does.
I mean,
the language has to get easier, right? Like the more being able to interact with is going to get easier. I'm thinking that people are still in their infancy of how to create a prompt or how to give the thing what it needs to then generate something back. But where are we with all of this technology moving forward? What do you think?
Well, I think one thing that will have changed in 6 more months or 12 more months is that teachers, as well as parents, as well as everyday people, right, will have had more experiences understanding how these generative technologies can be used in everyday life. And I think that demystifying the but what can it do part a little bit more, because when you really, so I heard an academic researcher from ASU, I don't remember his full name at the moment. He said one of the interesting things, his whole job basically right now is examining AI technologies and trying to be able to answer this question. And he said what is fascinating to him is that he hasn't yet to find something that, even with the technologies and the tools that we have today, that is completely impossible. Like he can't find the edge, right? And he pointed out that, he's an education researcher and he had a large language model like a ChatGPT type tool writing code for him to analyze data. And he's like, but I'm not a programmer, right? And I don't think that where we are in 12 months is that people think, oh, I need to ask one of these tools to write a program for me. But I think more people know what types of questions are possible to ask of these tools in the same way that we kind of, as a working, everyday feeling, we know what types of questions we can ask the Google Assistant or ask Siri or ask an Alexa, right? And so I think that is one of the biggest things that's going to change that I can predict. From the technical advances side, I think that anyone who says they know where we're going to be in 12 months, they are completely making it up, because I think if you look to where we were literally 16 months ago, 18 months ago, 16-ish, what we can do today was impossible at that point. And then, I remember even January of 2023 talking with a district administrator. This is before some of the there's a tool set that OpenAI released for programmers to access ChatGPT, which has the underlying technologies, which has enabled many of these tools to come to market. So this is before that was possible. And this district administrator came and we were talking at a conference, and he said, I have this great idea. I really wish that I could connect our district resources to one of these large language models and make a chat tool that would let my teachers ask questions of all the great resources we've already built for them. And in January 2023, that was a really, really hard technical problem. And today, that's not a completely trivial technical problem, but a very solvable problem for a district to achieve. And the pace of the change is head spinning. And I think that may be important for your listeners to hear, is that even for someone like me, I'm trying to keep my fingers at least on the, it's not even the pulse. Like, I'm trying to feel the vibrations, from afar, and it's still kind of dizzying. Right. And so it's completely normal to feel like it is moving so quickly, because it really is. So where will we be? I don't know. But, I think we'll continue to be amazed by what's possible. And hopefully we'll be finding ways to, accelerate our creativity, right? Because I think to say it's just about being efficient cheapens what's possible for us.
I love that phrase that you just said, and accelerating creativity. That really does seem to be what it all comes down to. We could take 10 minutes to do something, or we could use this as a tool to get it done in 2 minutes, if it even takes that long. And so the website is edthena.com, EDTHENA. Check it out today. Personalized professional development for your teachers. I love the concept, being able to use video and take advantage of all those tools that are there to not only assess your own program, but also get that individualized feedback. Adam, you have a fantastic tool. Please come back on the show. I'd love to have an update of what this looks like, perhaps over the summertime. I'm sure it's going to be light years from now because of the way AI is moving. But my friend, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can teachers go to get more information? Do you want to send them to your YouTube channel, to your Instagram? Where's a good place for teachers to go to really dive into what this is all about?
Well, yeah, if you want to read a lot about the AI Coach platform, you can head to our website. That's edthena.com/AI Coach. But we have a YouTube channel with lots of videos on there, including videos from teachers and coaches who have used the AI Coach platform. And so, if you want to hear firsthand from folks, I would say go there as well. And we have a link for your listeners as well if they want to try it out. Now, you would need to, of course, make sure it's okay with your district policies before you go and do this. We have good privacy policies, but make sure you follow your district rules. But if you head to tryaicoach.com/digital learning today, then you can try it out.
We'll make sure that all of those links are on there. Also going to be promoting it in our newsletter. So check out all that great stuff today. And of course, head on over to the TeacherCast network. We're going to make sure everything is there for you. Adam, thank you so much for your time today. Please come back on the show with more information.
Thanks for having me.
Hope you guys enjoyed this show. If you're looking for more podcasts all about artificial intelligence and how you can use it in your classroom, head on over to TeacherCast today. We have a ton of shows, probably at this point about 15 or so podcasts all about AI. We're going to be doing a big blog post wrap up at the end of the school year to give everything to you all in one small bite, also putting it out on our newsletter. So check out all of that great stuff over at TeacherCast today. And that wraps up this episode of Digital Learning Today. On behalf of Adam and everybody here on TeacherCast, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.
You've been listening to the TeacherCast Educational Network, hosted by Jeff Bradbury. Please reach out to the show with all of your questions on Twitter @TeacherCast or online at www.teachercast.net. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review in the App Store.